Some stories entertain you, others stay with you. If you believe stories have the power to change how we see the world, subscribe and join this community. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it as well.
Elena Hart never imagined her father would sell her like livestock. One phone call shattered her invisible life. He was forcing her to marry a monster in her half-sister's place. Damian Moretti, the Mafia king of Greyhaven, a man they said was broken, dangerous, and soaked in blood. She thought she'd survive the ceremony, find her missing mother, and disappear. But the moment she saw him standing at the altar, cold eyes burning through her like he already owned her soul, Elena realized the terrifying truth. This man would never let her go. If you're ready for a story of power, betrayal, and dangerous obsession, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain hammered against the cracked window of Elena Hart's apartment like fists demanding entry. She sat curled on the sagging couch, a mug of cold tea forgotten in her hands, staring at the phone that had just shattered her world. Her father's voice still echoed in her skull. Cold. Transactional. The same tone he'd used when he'd left her and her mother 15 years ago for a newer family, a better life. You'll marry him in Caroline's place. It's already decided. No greeting, no explanation, just a command delivered like she was a servant, not his daughter. Elena's hands trembled. She set the mug down before it could slip through her fingers. The cramped studio apartment suddenly felt suffocating. Water-stained walls, secondhand furniture, the constant drip from the bathroom faucet she couldn't afford to fix. This was her life. Small, forgotten, safe. Until tonight. I don't understand, she had whispered into the phone, hating how weak her voice sounded. Caroline's engaged. She's been planning the wedding for months. Caroline changed her mind. Her father's tone held no room for argument. The arrangement still stands. The Moretti family expects a bride. You'll take her place. But I don't even know. You'll do as you're told, Elena. The sharp crack of his voice made her flinch. Unless you want your mother to disappear permanently. The world had stopped. Her mother, missing for 3 weeks. The police had filed reports, asked questions, then moved on to cases that mattered more. But Elena had kept searching, calling hospitals, shelters, anyone who might have seen a fragile woman with graying hair and frightened eyes. And now she knew why she'd found nothing. You took her, the words scraped out of Elena's throat. You know where she is. Silence. Then, I know people who know. People who can make sure she stays safe or doesn't. A pause, heavy with threat. The wedding is in 3 days. A car will pick you up. Don't make this difficult. The line had gone dead. Now Elena sat in the wreckage of that conversation, trying to understand how her life had become a bargaining chip in someone else's game. She knew about the Morettis. Everyone in Greyhaven did. They were the shadow behind the city's gleaming skyline, the family that controlled everything that mattered and most things that didn't. Legitimate businesses fronted operations that were anything but. Politicians smiled at their donations. Police looked the other way at their gatherings. And at the center of it all was Damian Moretti. Elena's laptop sat on the coffee table, still open from her frantic searching after the call. She'd typed his name with shaking fingers, desperate to understand what kind of man her father was selling her to. The search results had made her blood run cold. Mafia king of Greyhaven returns after accident. Moretti empire expands despite boss's injuries. The untouchable kingpin, inside Damian Moretti's dark world. The articles were careful, dancing around facts that everyone knew but no one could prove. They spoke of business acquisitions that destroyed competitors overnight, of rivals who vanished, of a man who'd survived a brutal car accident 5 years ago that should have killed him. The accident had left him changed, the rumors said, broken in ways that made him more dangerous, not less. Some whispered he was disfigured. Others said the injuries had left him cold, inhuman, incapable of normal life. All agreed on one thing. Damian Moretti was not a man you crossed and lived to regret it. And somehow, Caroline had been engaged to marry him. Elena's half-sister, the golden child. Beautiful, polished, given every advantage that Elena had been denied. Of course, their father would arrange a marriage between Caroline and Greyhaven's most powerful family. It was exactly the kind of strategic alliance a man like Richard Hart would orchestrate. But Caroline had backed out. And rather than face the consequences of breaking a deal with the Morettis, their father had simply substituted one daughter for another. Elena stood abruptly, pacing the small space like a caged animal. She could run, disappear into a different city, change her name, start over. But her mother's face haunted every escape plan. Weak from illness, dependent on medications Elena could barely afford. If Richard truly had people watching her, if he could make her disappear, the choice wasn't really a choice at all. 3 days. She had 3 days to prepare for a wedding to a stranger, a monster. A man who ruled Greyhaven's underworld with an iron fist. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Car arrives Friday, 2 p.m. Bring nothing. Everything will be provided. Her stomach turned. Everything will be provided. Like she was a package being delivered, not a person entering a marriage. She typed back with shaking fingers. Can I at least know why he agreed to this? The response came immediately. He doesn't know about the substitution. Your father assured the family that his daughter would fulfill the arrangement. Don't make a liar out of him. The phone slipped from Elena's hand. Damien Moretti didn't even know he was getting a different bride. Would he rage when he discovered the deception? Would he blame her? The articles had made one thing crystal clear. This was not a man who forgave betrayal. The next 3 days passed in a blur of numb terror. Elena called in sick to her waitressing job, unable to imagine smiling at customers while her life crumbled. She cleaned the apartment obsessively, as if scrubbing the floors could somehow restore order to chaos. She typed and deleted a dozen messages to her father, begging him to reconsider. She sent none of them. On Thursday night, she finally broke down and called her best friend Maya. "You're doing what?" Maya's voice exploded through the phone. Elena winced, pulling the phone slightly away from her ear. "I know how it sounds. It sounds insane. Elena, you can't marry some mafia boss you've never met. This is the 21st century, not a historical drama." "He has my mother." Elena's voice came out flat, defeated. "Or he knows where she is. I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice." But Maya's voice had softened. She knew about Elena's mother, about the desperate search. "Call the police. Tell them your father's blackmailing you." "With what proof? A phone call? They'll think I'm delusional." Elena closed her eyes. "And if I'm wrong, if he really does have people watching her?" The silence on the other end said everything. "When?" Maya finally asked. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'm coming over." "Maya, you don't have to." "Shut up. If you're going to do this insane thing, you're not spending your last night of freedom alone." Elena's eyes burned with unshed tears. "Thank you." Maya arrived an hour later with wine, chocolate, and a fierce determination to treat the night like any other. They watched terrible movies, ate too much junk food, and avoided talking about tomorrow until the wine had softened the edges of reality. "What if he's horrible?" Elena whispered as the second movie played, ignored on the screen. Maya squeezed her hand. "Then you survive until you can get your mom back and get out." "But Elena..." She turned to face her friend fully. "What if he's not?" Elena laughed bitterly. "Did you read the articles? Damien Moretti is a killer." "Allegedly." Maya's expression turned thoughtful. "Every article said allegedly. No convictions, no proof, just rumors and fear. That doesn't make him safe." "No," Maya agreed. "But maybe he's not the monster everyone thinks. Maybe he's just a man who learned to use fear as a weapon." Elena wanted to believe that, desperately wanted to believe she wasn't walking into a nightmare with no escape. But when Friday arrived, bright and mockingly cheerful, all her hopes felt like lies she'd told herself to get through the night. Maya helped her dress in the simple clothes she'd chosen. Jeans, a sweater, boots. If they were providing everything else, she'd at least arrive as herself. Not pretending to be Caroline, not trying to be something she wasn't. At 1:55 p.m., a black car pulled up outside her building. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The moment everything changed. Maya hugged her fiercely. "You call me. Every day. If you need anything, I will find a way to help." "I know." Elena pulled back, trying to smile. "I'll be okay." You're the strongest person I know. Maya's eyes shimmered with tears. Don't forget that. The driver didn't speak when Elena slid into the back seat. He was broad-shouldered, expressionless, with the kind of watchful stillness that spoke of violence held carefully in check. A bodyguard, not a chauffeur. The car pulled away from the only home Elena had known for years. She watched her building disappear in the side mirror, then the familiar streets of her neighborhood. They drove through Greyhaven's downtown, past the glittering high-rises and expensive shops she'd never been able to afford, into neighborhoods that grew progressively more exclusive. Finally, they turned through massive iron gates into what could only be described as an estate. Elena's breath caught. The mansion sprawled across manicured grounds like something from a movie. Stone and glass, modern and imposing, surrounded by gardens even November couldn't completely diminish. Fountains, sculptures, security cameras positioned with obvious intent. This was power made visible, wealth beyond anything she'd imagined. And somewhere inside was the man she was supposed to marry. The car stopped at the main entrance. The driver opened her door without a word. Elena stepped out on trembling legs. "Miss Hart." A woman appeared in the doorway, middle-aged, elegantly dressed, with sharp eyes that catalogued every detail of Elena's appearance in seconds. "I'm Mrs. Chen, the head of household staff. Please come with me." Elena followed her inside, trying not to gape at the soaring ceilings, the artwork that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime, the kind of casual luxury that came from never having to think about money. "Mr. Moretti is handling business matters," Mrs. Chen said as they climbed a sweeping staircase. "He'll join you for dinner at 7. In the meantime, we'll get you settled." "Does he—" Elena's voice came out rough. She cleared her throat. "Does he know about the change?" Mrs. Chen's expression didn't flicker. "Mr. Moretti knows everything that happens in his home, Miss Hart." It wasn't an answer. It was a warning. The room Mrs. Chen led her to was larger than Elena's entire apartment. A massive bed dominated one wall, covered in linens that probably had thread counts she couldn't pronounce. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, a sitting area, a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. "Your clothes will arrive shortly," Mrs. Chen said. "Dinner attire is formal. I'll send someone to help you dress." "I can dress myself," Elena said automatically. The smallest hint of a smile touched Mrs. Chen's lips. "Of course, but perhaps you'll accept help anyway. Mr. Moretti prefers—" She paused delicately. "A certain presentation." Heat flushed Elena's cheeks. Of course. She was here to replace the beautiful, sophisticated Caroline. She'd need all the help she could get to even remotely meet expectations. "Fine," she said quietly. Mrs. Chen nodded. "Someone will come at 6:30. She moved toward the door, then paused. "Miss Hart? A word of advice." Elena turned. "Mr. Moretti is not a patient man, but he is a fair one. Honesty will serve you better than deception." Then she was gone, leaving Elena alone in a room that felt like a beautiful prison. The clothes arrived an hour later, delivered by silent staff members who hung them in the walk-in closet without meeting her eyes. Elena waited until they left before investigating. Dresses, dozens of them, in every style and color imaginable. Shoes arranged like art, drawers filled with lingerie that made her face burn. Everything in her size, which meant her father must have provided measurements along with everything else he'd sold. She wanted to hate all of it, wanted to refuse to wear a single piece. But at 6:30, when a young woman knocked softly and entered with a makeup case and gentle smile, Elena let herself be transformed. The dress they chose was deep emerald green, elegant without being overly formal. It fit perfectly, skimming her curves in a way that made her feel both exposed and somehow powerful. The makeup was subtle, enhancing features she'd never thought much about. Her dark hair, usually thrown in a messy bun, was styled in soft waves. When Elena finally looked in the mirror, a stranger looked back. "Beautiful," the stylist murmured. "Mr. Moretti will be pleased." Elena's stomach nodded. What if he wasn't? What if he took one look at her and realized exactly how inferior she was to the bride he'd expected? At 7 o'clock precisely, Mrs. Chen knocked and led her downstairs. The dining room could have hosted a state dinner. A long table set for two, candlelight reflecting off crystal and china. And at the head of the table, rising as she entered, was Damien Moretti. Elena's breath stopped. The articles had mentioned his looks in passing, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. He was tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the kind of controlled grace that spoke of power held in check. Dark hair, sharp jawline, features that might have been classically handsome, if not for the thin scar that ran from his left temple to his cheekbone. But it was his eyes that froze her in place, dark, intense, watching her with an intelligence that seemed to strip away every defense. This was not a broken man. This was a predator in perfect control. "Miss Hart." His voice was deep, smooth, with an edge that made it a statement rather than a greeting. How interesting. He knew. Of course he knew. "Mr. Moretti?" Elena forced herself to move forward, to not bolt for the door. "I'm sorry, I didn't—" "Sit." It wasn't a request. Elena sat, hands clasped in her lap to hide their trembling. Damien remained standing, studying her with that unreadable expression. "You're not Caroline Hart." "No." There was no point in lying. "I'm Elena, her half-sister. And your father thought he could make this substitution without consequences." "He thought—" Elena's voice caught. "He threatened my mother. She's missing. He said if I didn't take Caroline's place—" Something flickered in Damien's eyes. "So you're here under duress. Isn't that how all arranged marriages work?" The words slipped out before Elena could stop them. A dangerous pause. Then unexpectedly, Damien smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "You have a spine after all." "Good." He sat, gesturing for staff to begin serving. "Tell me about yourself, Elena Hart, since it appears we're to be married." Elena's mind raced. What could she possibly say that would interest a man like this? "I'm 24. I worked as a waitress. I live in a studio apartment in Riverside. I'm nobody." "Nobody," Damien repeated, tasting the word. "Is that what your father told you?" "It's what everyone's told me." Elena met his eyes, finding courage in her own worthlessness. If she was nothing, she had nothing left to lose. "I'm the daughter he abandoned. The mistake he pretends doesn't exist. Caroline is the real daughter, the important one. And yet he sent you in her place." Damien's fingers drummed once on the table. "Foolish man. He has no idea what he's given me." Elena blinked. "What do you mean?" "Caroline Hart is beautiful, ambitious, and utterly transparent. I've met her 3 times. Each time I could see every calculation in her eyes. She wanted the Moretti name, the power, the money. She would have been a decorative wife and a constant liability." He leaned forward slightly. "You, Elena, are something far more interesting." "I'm really not." "You walked into a stranger's home to save your mother. You're terrified, I can see it, but you're sitting here meeting my eyes instead of cowering. And when I asked about yourself, you didn't try to impress me with lies." His smile turned sharp. "Honesty is rare in my world. I value rare things." Elena didn't know how to respond to that. She'd expected anger, rejection, perhaps violence, not whatever this was. Dinner was served, food Elena couldn't have named, prepared with skill she couldn't appreciate while her nerves screamed. Damien ate calmly, occasionally asking questions that seemed designed to test her, rather than get to know her. What did she study in school? Nothing. She'd dropped out to work when her mother got sick. What did she want from life? To survive. To keep her mother safe. What did she fear most? Losing the few people she loved. Every answer seemed to satisfy something in him, though Elena couldn't imagine what. Finally, as dessert appeared, Damien set down his fork and fixed her with that penetrating stare. "The wedding will proceed as planned, tomorrow afternoon." Elena's heart lurched. "That's soon?" "The arrangements are made. Changing them would raise questions I prefer not to answer." He paused. "But understand this, Elena. I'm not marrying you because of your father's arrangement. I'm marrying you because you interest me, and things that interest me, I keep." A shiver ran down her spine. "What if I don't interest you anymore?" "Then I'll let you go." His voice was utterly calm. "But until that moment, you belong to me. Completely. Is that clear?" It should have terrified her. Maybe it did. But there was something almost reassuring about the absolute certainty in his voice. "And my mother will be found and brought here safely by tomorrow morning." Damien's expression didn't change. Your father's leverage dies with this conversation. Relief crashed through Elena so hard she nearly sobbed. Thank you. Don't thank me. Damien stood moving around the table with that predatory grace. He stopped beside her chair, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. This isn't mercy, Elena. This is ownership. I take care of what's mine. He reached out, fingers tilting her chin up until she had to meet his eyes. Tomorrow you become my wife. That means you're under my protection, but it also means you obey me. You trust me, and you never ever lie to me. His thumb brushed her jaw. Can you do that? Elena's breath came shallow. This close, she could see the faint lines around his eyes, the scar tissue that spoke of violence survived. He was overwhelming, dangerous, everything she should fear, but he'd just promised to save her mother. Yes, she whispered. Damien's eyes darkened. Good girl. He released her, stepping back. Mrs. Chen will take you to your room. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be intense. He walked away without another word, leaving Elena trembling in her chair. That night, alone in the massive bedroom, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling. Everything had changed so fast. Yesterday, she'd been nobody. Tomorrow she'd be Mrs. Damien Moretti, the wife of Greyhaven's most dangerous man. Her phone buzzed, Maya, demanding updates. Elena typed out a brief message. I'm okay. Wedding tomorrow. He's not what I expected. Maya's response came immediately. Good or bad? Elena stared at that question for a long time. Finally, I don't know yet. Because that was the truth. Damien Moretti was terrifying and compelling in equal measure. He'd threatened and promised in the same breath. He looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve, piece by piece, and tomorrow she would belong to him. Elena closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing heart. She thought of her mother, safe now. She thought of Caroline somewhere in the city, probably relieved to have escaped this fate. She thought of Damien's eyes, dark and intense, and the way he'd called her interesting. Sleep finally claimed her as dawn began to lighten the sky, and her dreams were full of shadows and sharp smiles and the feeling of being seen for the very first time. The wedding happened so fast, Elena barely remembered it. One moment, Mrs. Chen was helping her into a dress that cost more than Elena had earned in years. White silk and lace that transformed her into someone she didn't recognize. The next, she was standing in front of a judge in Damien's private study, speaking vows that felt like signing away her soul. Damien slid a ring onto her finger, platinum, with a diamond that caught the light like captured fire. When it was her turn, her hands shook so badly he had to steady them, his fingers warm and strong around hers. The judge pronounced them married. Damien kissed her, a brief press of lips that still managed to feel like a brand, a claim, a promise of things to come. And just like that, Elena Hart ceased to exist. She was Elena Moretti now, the wife of the Mafia king. The reception was small, private, and felt more like a business transaction than a celebration. A handful of Damien's closest associates stood in the mansion's grand ballroom, raising glasses of champagne that cost more than Elena's monthly rent used to be. No one from her side attended. Her father hadn't even called. Elena stood beside her new husband, the weight of the ring on her finger feeling heavier with each passing moment. Damien's hand rested possessively on the small of her back, a constant reminder that she belonged to him now. Smile, he murmured, his lips barely moving. You look like you're attending a funeral. Isn't that what this is? The words slipped out before she could stop them. His fingers pressed slightly harder against her spine, not painful, but unmistakably a warning. Careful, wife. These people smell weakness, like sharks smell blood. Elena forced her lips into something resembling a smile. Around them, Damien's associates watched with calculating eyes. She recognized the assessment happening, measuring her worth, deciding if the Mafia king had made a wise choice or a foolish one. A man approached, older, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Damien, congratulations on your marriage. Vincent. Damien's tone was cordial but cool. Thank you for coming. Vincent's gaze slid to Elena, lingering in a way that made her skin crawl. She's quite different from the photos your father-in-law circulated. Younger, less polished. More genuine, Damien corrected smoothly. I prefer authenticity to performance. How refreshing. Vincent sipped his champagne. Though I wonder if authenticity will serve well in our world. It can be so fragile. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Elena felt Damien's posture shift minutely, his hand on her back becoming protective rather than possessive. Elena is under my protection now, Damien said quietly. Anyone who forgets that will learn why I've remained untouchable for 5 years. Vincent's smile froze. Of course. No disrespect intended. Then none taken. Damien dismissed him with a slight nod, already turning away. As Vincent retreated, Elena exhaled shakily. He hates me. He hates that he can't predict you. Vincent thrives on patterns, and you've disrupted his expectations. Damien guided her toward a quieter corner. He'll test you. They all will. How you respond determines whether they respect you or eat you alive. That's supposed to be reassuring? It's supposed to be honest. Damien's dark eyes found hers. I told you last night, honesty is what I value. That extends both ways, Elena. I won't lie to you about the world you've entered. A woman in a stunning red dress approached before Elena could respond. She was beautiful in the way that spoke of professional maintenance, perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect everything. And the way she looked at Damien held a familiarity that twisted something in Elena's stomach. Damien. The woman's voice was warm, honey. What a surprise this all is. I had no idea you were so close to marriage. Isabel. Damien's tone cooled noticeably. Elena, this is Isabel Crane. Her family handles some of our legal affairs. Isabel, my wife. Elena. Wife. The word still felt surreal. Isabel's smile was razor sharp as she turned to Elena. How lovely and so sudden. One does wonder about the rush. Elena felt Damien's fingers tighten on her back again, but this time something in her sparked. She'd spent her whole life being dismissed, overlooked, treated as less than. She was tired of shrinking. When you find what you want, why wait? Elena met Isabel's eyes directly. Though I suppose some people prefer to wait indefinitely for things they'll never have. The words hung in the air like a slap. Isabel's smile became brittle. How charming! Damien, you found yourself a wife with claws. I hope you've had your tetanus shot. She swept away, her departure as dramatic as her arrival. Damien was silent for a long moment. Then unexpectedly he laughed, a low, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. Did you just mark your territory? Elena flushed. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't apologize. Damien turned her to face him fully, something almost like approval in his eyes. Isabel has been circling me like a vulture for 3 years, convinced that patience would eventually put her in your position. You just made it clear that ship has sailed, spectacularly. You're not angry? I'm impressed. His thumb brushed her cheek in a gesture that felt dangerously intimate. You've been my wife for 3 hours and you're already defending what's yours. That's exactly the kind of strength you'll need. The word yours echoed in Elena's mind. Was Damien hers? This powerful, dangerous man who could have anyone? Before she could process that thought, Mrs. Chen appeared at Damien's elbow. Sir, your mother has arrived. Damien's entire demeanor shifted, tension radiating through him. I didn't invite her. She invited herself. Mrs. Chen's expression was carefully neutral. She's waiting in the east sitting room. Damien muttered something under his breath that sounded like a curse. Stay here. I'll handle this. But Elena found herself following as he strode toward the door. I should meet her. She's my mother-in-law now. Elena, Damien stopped, turning. My mother is not like other mothers. She's difficult, Elena supplied. I grew up with a father who abandoned me and a half-sister who treated me like dirt. I can handle difficult. Something flickered across Damien's face, respect mixed with concern. Fine, but let me do the talking. The east sitting room was elegant, decorated in soft grays and creams. A woman sat in one of the chairs, her posture perfect, her expression severe. She was beautiful in a cold way, with sharp features and eyes that assessed everything they touched. Damien, she didn't rise. Married without even telling your own mother. How very considerate. Mother. Damien's voice was flat. This is Elena. Elena, Victoria Moretti. Victoria's gaze swept over Elena from head to toe, cataloging every imperfection. This is the heart girl? She looks nothing like her photo. Because I'm not Caroline, Elena said before Damien could respond. I'm her half-sister. Victoria's eyebrows rose fractionally. A substitution. How irregular. Her attention shifted to Damien. Did you know about this arrangement? I approved the change. The lie came smoothly from Damien's lips. Caroline was unsuitable. Elena is exactly what I wanted. Elena tried not to show her surprise at the casual deception. Victoria's expression remained skeptical. The daughter of Richard Hart's mistress. How appropriate for this family. The venom in her voice was barely concealed. Tell me, girl, what exactly qualifies you to be a Moretti? Nothing, Elena said quietly. I'm not qualified. I'm not sophisticated or educated or any of the things you probably expected, but I'm here anyway. Honesty. Victoria's laugh was bitter. How refreshing and utterly useless. In this world, my dear, honesty is just another word for weakness. That's enough. Damien's voice cut through the room like a blade. Elena is my wife. You will treat her with respect, or you will leave. Mother and son stared at each other, a battle of wills that spoke of years of conflict. Finally, Victoria rose smoothly. Of course, I wouldn't dream of disrespecting your choice. She moved toward the door, pausing beside Elena. A word of advice, child. In this family, love is a liability and trust is a death sentence. Remember that when the betrayals come, and they will come. She swept out, leaving silence in her wake. Elena released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Well, that was warm and welcoming. Damien's jaw was tight. I apologize for her. Don't! Elena turned to face him. You can't control her any more than I could control my father. We don't choose our families. No, Damien agreed quietly, but we can choose what we build despite them. The reception ended shortly after, guests departing with knowing looks and whispered conversations. Elena changed out of the wedding dress with relief, pulling on comfortable clothes that felt like reclaiming a small piece of herself. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Damien waiting in the hallway. He'd removed his jacket and tie, looking somehow more dangerous in the casual disarray. Come with me, he said. There's something you need to see. He led her through the mansion, down corridors she hadn't yet explored, finally stopping at a door that required both a key and a fingerprint to open. Inside was an office that made it clear this was the nerve center of his empire. Computers, files, a wall of monitors showing security feeds from what looked like half the city. This was where Damien Moretti truly lived, not in the grand public spaces, but here in the shadows where power was wielded. Sit, he instructed, gesturing to a chair in front of the desk. Elena sat, watching as he pulled up something on one of the monitors. An image appeared, a small house in a decent neighborhood. Through the window, she could see a woman sleeping peacefully in a bed. Her mother. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. She's okay. She's safe. The men your father hired to watch her have been redirected. She's under my protection now. Damien's tone was businesslike. I've also hired a private nurse and arranged for the medication she needs to be delivered weekly. All expenses covered. Tears blurred Elena's vision. Why? Because you're my wife. What hurts you is a threat to what's mine. Damien pulled up another screen, this one showing financial records. Your father's debts are extensive. Gambling, mostly. Bad investments. He arranged your sister's marriage to me to clear his obligations and secure his business dealings. Elena stared at the numbers, feeling sick. He sold Caroline to save himself. And when Caroline refused, he sold you instead. Damien's expression was unreadable. Men like Richard Hart see their children as assets, not people. It's a common failing in our world. What are you going to do to him? Nothing. At her surprised look, Damien continued. He's not worth my time. But I've made it clear that any further contact with you or your mother will have consequences. He won't bother you again. Elena should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt oddly empty. Her father had sold her, and now couldn't even be bothered to face the results of his choices. Thank you, she said quietly. For my mother. For everything. Damien moved around the desk, perching on the edge in front of her. You keep thanking me. Stop. This isn't charity, Elena. This is investment. In what? In you. His hand cupped her jaw, tilting her face up. You belong to me now. That means I protect you, provide for you, and in return, you give me your loyalty, your trust, your obedience. The word obedience should have rankled, should have made her rebel. But the way he said it, like a promise rather than a demand, sent heat curling through her stomach. And if I can't? She whispered. You can. His thumb traced her lower lip. You're stronger than you think, Elena. You just haven't had anyone show you how to use that strength. Before she could respond, he released her and stood. It's late. You should rest. Tomorrow, the real work begins. What work? Teaching you to survive in my world. Damien's smile was sharp. You handled Isabel well tonight, but she's nothing compared to what's coming. If you're going to be my wife, you need to learn how to be a Moretti. Elena's heart raced. And if I fail? You won't. It was stated as fact, not hope. Because failure isn't an option. Not for you. Not anymore. He walked her to the bedroom door, pausing with his hand on the frame. One more thing. This room is yours. I won't enter it without your permission. Elena blinked. We're not sharing a bed. Not yet. His eyes held a heat that made her shiver. When we do, Elena, it will be because you want it. Not because of some obligation or arrangement. I don't take unwilling women to my bed. But we're married. A piece of paper doesn't grant me rights to your body. Damien's voice was firm. I'm many things, but I'm not a rapist. You'll come to me when you're ready. Until then, this room is your sanctuary. He left before she could find words to respond. Elena stood in the doorway, mind reeling. Everything about Damien Moretti contradicted itself. He was controlling, but gave her space. He demanded obedience, but valued her defiance. He spoke of ownership, but refused to claim what was legally his. She didn't understand him at all. The next morning, Elena woke to find an entire schedule laid out on the dresser. Breakfast at 7. Meeting with Mrs. Chen at 8. Language lessons at 9. Self-defense training at 10. Lunch. More lessons. Dinner with Damien at 7. Mrs. Chen appeared precisely at 8, carrying a tablet and wearing an expression of determined efficiency. Mrs. Moretti, she began, and Elena startled at the name. Mr. Moretti has asked me to help you adjust to your new role. This will require learning quite a bit in a short time. What kind of learning? Everything. Mrs. Chen's smile was kind but firm. How to manage household staff. How to navigate social situations with the families allied to the Morettis. How to recognize threats. How to present yourself as someone not to be underestimated. The list went on. Elena's head spun. Over the following days, she was immersed in a crash course in being a Mafia queen. She learned which families were allies and which were rivals. She memorized faces, names, positions. She practiced the kind of small talk that said nothing while gathering information. The self-defense lessons were the most surprising. A compact, muscular woman named Rita appeared each morning to teach Elena how to break holds, strike vulnerable points, and move with purpose. Mr. Moretti insists, Rita explained when Elena questioned the need. He says any wife of his needs to be able to protect herself when he's not there. Elena threw herself into the training with unexpected ferocity. For the first time in her life, she was learning to fight back instead of just endure. Evenings, she dined with Damien. Sometimes they ate in companionable silence. Sometimes he asked about her day, listening with genuine interest as she described her lessons. Sometimes he told her about his business, carefully edited versions that still gave her glimpses into the empire he controlled. You're adjusting well, he observed one night, a week after the wedding. Mrs. Chen says you're a quick study. I'm motivated, Elena replied. I don't want to embarrass you. You couldn't. Damien's certainty was absolute. You could walk into a room in rags and still command more respect than half the women in Greyhaven. It's not about clothes or lessons, Elena. It's about presence. And you have it. Elena didn't believe him, but something warm unfurled in her chest at the words anyway. 2 weeks into the marriage, everything changed. Elena was in the library reading files Mrs. Chen had given her about the Moretti business holdings when raised voices echoed from the foyer. She moved to the doorway, peering out. Damien stood in the entrance hall, his expression carved from ice. Facing him was a woman Elena didn't recognize. Blonde, beautiful, with the kind of polished elegance that spoke of money and breeding. "You can't keep me away, Damien." The woman's voice was sharp, desperate. "We have history." "We have nothing, Lena." Damien's tone could have frozen fire. "What we had ended years ago. You made your choice." "I made a mistake." Lena stepped closer, reaching for him. "I was young and stupid and scared, but I never stopped loving you." Elena's stomach dropped. This woman loved Damien, had history with him. Love. Damien caught Lena's wrist before she could touch him. "You don't know the meaning of the word. You left when things got hard. You chose comfort over loyalty. That's not love." "The accident," Lena's voice broke. "They said you might never walk again, never be the same. I panicked. You abandoned me when I needed you most." Each word was precise, cutting. "And now you come back because what? You heard I'm powerful again, wealthy, whole. That's not fair." "Fair?" Damien's laugh was bitter. "You want to talk about fair? Get out of my house, Lena. I'm married now, happily, to a woman who actually has the spine you never did." Elena's breath caught. "Happily?" Lena's eyes found Elena in the doorway, and her expression twisted with contempt. "Her, that plain little nobody? You married her to spite me." "I married her because she's worth 10 of you." Damien released Lena's wrist like it burned him. "Security will escort you out. If you come back, I'll have you arrested for trespassing." Two guards appeared as if summoned, taking Lena's arms. She struggled briefly, then went limp. "This isn't over, Damien," she called as they led her away. "You'll see. You'll remember what we had." "I remember exactly what we had," Damien said coldly. "Nothing worth keeping." The door closed behind them. Silence fell. Damien turned, finding Elena in the doorway. For a moment, something vulnerable crossed his face. Then his mask slammed back into place. "How much did you hear?" "Enough." Elena moved into the hall. "She's the one, isn't she? The woman who left after your accident." Damien's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Did you love her?" The question hung between them. Finally, Damien sighed. "I thought I did. Before I learned that love without loyalty is just another form of transaction." Elena understood that language, the language of being used, discarded, valued only when convenient. "She hurt you." "She taught me a valuable lesson." Damien's expression hardened. "Trust is earned, not given, and very few people ever earn it." "Do I?" The question escaped before Elena could stop it. "Have I earned your trust?" Damien crossed to her slowly, each step deliberate. When he stood close enough to touch, he reached out, fingers tangling gently in her hair. You're the only person in this house who's never lied to me," he said quietly. "The only one who looks at me and sees a man, not a weapon or a bank account or a stepping stone to power. So yes, Elena, you've earned more of my trust than anyone else alive." The intensity in his eyes stole her breath. This close, she could see the flecks of gold in the dark brown, the faint scar tissue near his temple, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at her. "I should get back to work," he murmured, but he didn't move. "Should you?" Elena's voice came out husky. "If I don't, I'm going to kiss you, really kiss you, and I promised I wouldn't push." Elena's heart thundered. "What if I want you to?" Damien went very still. "Elena, you said I'd come to you when I was ready." She swallowed hard. "Maybe I'm ready." "You're not." But his thumb brushed her cheek with aching gentleness. "You're reacting to what you saw, to Lena. That's not the same as wanting me." "How do you know what I want?" "Because I've been watching you for 2 weeks." Damien's smile was sad. "I see the way you still flinch sometimes when I move too fast. The way you sleep with pillows barricading your side of the bed when you think no one's watching. You're getting comfortable here, but you're not ready for this." He was right, and they both knew it. But something in Elena mourned the distance anyway. "When?" she whispered. "When you stop asking permission." Damien's lips brushed her forehead, chaste and devastating. When you stop thinking of this as an obligation, when you touch me first without hesitation because you want to, then I'll know you're ready." He pulled away, leaving Elena aching and confused and more aware of her own body than she'd ever been. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing Lena's face, twisted with jealousy and regret. Kept hearing Damien's voice, "You're worth 10 of you." Did he mean it? Or was it just another power play, another way to control the narrative? Elena threw off the covers and wandered to the window. The grounds were beautiful in the moonlight, peaceful in a way that felt surreal given what she knew happened in this house. A knock startled her. "Come in." Mrs. Chen entered, carrying a tray. "I saw your light. Thought you might want tea." "Thank you." Elena accepted the cup gratefully. "Mrs. Chen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. But Damien's accident, what really happened?" Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. 5 years ago, Mr. Moretti was driving home late at night. Someone tampered with his car. The brakes failed. He crashed at high speed. Elena's blood ran cold. Someone tried to kill him. We could never prove it. But yes, Mrs. Chen's expression was grim. He spent months in the hospital, multiple surgeries. They said he might never walk again, might have permanent brain damage. But Mr. Moretti is stubborn. And Lena left during that time. Miss Ward left 3 weeks after the accident. Mrs. Chen's tone held clear disapproval. When Mr. Moretti needed support most, she decided she couldn't handle being tied to a potentially disabled man. She said she was sorry, said she was too young for such responsibility. She abandoned him when he was broken. Yes, and when he recovered, when he rebuilt himself into something stronger than before, she realized her mistake. She's been trying to get back into his life ever since. Mrs. Chen met Elena's eyes. "That's why your loyalty means so much to him, Mrs. Moretti. You came to him when you had nothing to gain. You stayed when you could have run. That kind of integrity is rare in his world." Elena absorbed this, pieces clicking into place. Damien's walls, his emphasis on loyalty, his distrust of beautiful words without action. "He's testing me," she realized, "constantly, waiting for me to prove I'm like everyone else." Can you blame him? No, she couldn't, because she understood exactly what it felt like to be abandoned, discarded, treated as disposable. Maybe that's why Damien had chosen her, not despite her being nobody, but because of it. They understood each other's scars. The next day, Lena Ward appeared again. Elena was having lunch with Rita after a particularly brutal training session when Mrs. Chen found them. "Mrs. Moretti, we have a situation." Elena's stomach sank. "Let me guess. Blonde. Beautiful. Persistent. She's at the gate, demanding to see Mr. Moretti. Security is holding her, but she's causing a scene. The staff doesn't know how you want this handled." How she wanted it handled. Because Elena was the lady of this house now. Her decision mattered. Rita leaned back, eyes glittering with interest. "What are you going to do, boss?" Elena thought about Damien's face yesterday. The old pain beneath the anger. The way Lena had looked at her with contempt, as if Elena was nothing. She'd spent her whole life letting people treat her like nothing. She was done with that. "I'll handle it," Elena said, standing. "Mrs. Chen, please ask security to escort Miss Ward to the front sitting room. I'll meet her there." Mrs. Chen's eyebrows rose fractionally. Approval or surprise, Elena couldn't tell. "Of course," Rita grinned. "This should be good." 10 minutes later, Elena walked into the sitting room where Lena waited, pacing like a caged animal. The other woman spun when Elena entered. "Where's Damien?" "Working." Elena sat calmly in one of the chairs, crossing her legs. "You're dealing with me." "I don't want to deal with you." Lena's lip curled. "You're just some temporary inconvenience, a rebound. When Damien comes to his senses, he already has." Elena kept her voice level. "That's why you're talking to me instead of him." Lena stepped closer, trying to use her height advantage. "You think you can keep him? You're nobody. No connections, no sophistication, no history with him." "You're right," Elena agreed. "I'm nobody. I have no connections. And I have no history with Damien." She stood, meeting Lena's eyes directly. "But I have something you never did. I have his respect, his trust. And whether you believe it or not, I have his heart." "You're delusional." Am I? Elena smiled. He threw you out yesterday, called security on you, and yet here you are again, desperate enough to create a scene at his gate. That doesn't sound like a woman who has any chance. Lena's face flushed with rage. You smug little... Careful, Elena interrupted softly. You're in my home now, speaking to the wife of the most dangerous man in Greyhaven. I'd think very carefully about your next words. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Lena's eyes. She'd expected Elena to cower, to bend, to be easy to intimidate. Instead, she'd found someone who'd learned from the best how to wield quiet power. Damien loved me, Lena said, but her voice had lost its sharp edge. Past tense, Elena pointed out, and even if he did, love wasn't enough to make you stay when things got hard. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you are. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Elena's voice hardened. You chose comfort over loyalty. You chose yourself over the man you claimed to love. And now you're back because you realized what you lost. But here's the thing, Lena, Damien Moretti doesn't give second chances, not in business, and certainly not in love. Lena's composure cracked. He'll get tired of you. You're just a novelty, fresh meat. When the newness wears off, then I'll deal with that when it happens. Elena moved toward the door, done with this conversation. But until that day comes, I'm his wife. I'm the lady of this house, and you are not welcome here. If you show up again, I won't be nearly this polite. She opened the door, gesturing for Lena to leave. The other woman stood frozen, clearly not expecting to be dismissed so thoroughly. This isn't over, Lena hissed as she passed. Yes, Elena said quietly. It is. Security escorted Lena out. Elena watched from the window as the woman was put in a car and driven off the property, her face twisted with fury and humiliation. Only when the car disappeared did Elena let herself shake. She'd just gone head-to-head with a woman who had years of experience in this world, who knew Damien intimately, who should have been able to destroy Elena with a few well-chosen words. But Elena had won. Impressive. She turned to find Damien in the doorway, his expression unreadable. How much did you hear? Enough. He moved into the room, closing the door behind him. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Elena lifted her chin. She was disrespecting our marriage, disrespecting you. I couldn't let that stand. Damien studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. My fierce little wife, you continue to surprise me. Is that good or bad? It's perfect. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Elena stiffened briefly, then relaxed, letting herself lean into his strength. You're perfect. I'm really not. To me, you are. Damien's voice rumbled against her ear. Do you know what you just did? You claimed your position. You defended what was yours. You showed strength without cruelty. That's exactly what a Moretti wife needs to be. Elena pulled back to look at him. I was terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. His hand cupped her face. But you didn't let it control you. You used it. That's the difference between surviving and thriving in this world. She wanted to kiss him. The urge was sudden, overwhelming, but she remembered his words. When you touch me first, without hesitation, and she wasn't quite there yet. Not yet. But maybe soon. Damien seemed to read her thoughts in her face. His eyes darkened, and for a moment Elena thought he might break his own rule. Then he stepped back, putting safe distance between them. I have a meeting, but tonight we're going out. Out where? A charity gala, one of the few events where all the families gather publicly. His expression turned serious. You'll meet them all, allies, rivals, people who'll smile while planning how to destroy us. Are you ready? No, she wasn't. But Elena thought of the way she'd just faced down Lena, of the strength she'd found in defending what was hers. I'm ready, she said. Damien's smile was proud and predatory all at once. Then let's show Greyhaven exactly what kind of queen I've chosen. The gown was midnight blue, dripping with crystals that caught the light like stars. Elena stared at her reflection and barely recognized herself. The woman looking back was elegant, polished, transformed into someone who belonged on Damien Moretti's arm. The stylist had outdone herself. Elena's dark hair was swept up in an intricate style that exposed the column of her throat, where a diamond necklace rested, Damien's gift, presented without ceremony an hour ago. The stones were cold against her skin, beautiful and heavy as a collar. "You look stunning," Mrs. Chen said from the doorway. "Mr. Moretti is waiting." Elena took a steadying breath. This was it, her first real test in public. Everyone would be watching, judging, measuring her against Caroline and finding her wanting. But she wasn't Caroline, and maybe that was exactly the point. Damien stood at the bottom of the stairs, devastating in a black tuxedo that emphasized his broad shoulders and the dangerous edge he carried like a second skin. When he looked up and saw her, something blazed in his eyes that made Elena's knees weak. "Beautiful," he murmured as she reached him. "Absolutely breathtaking. The dress does most of the work. The dress is just fabric." His hand settled on her waist, possessive and warm. "It's the woman wearing it who takes my breath away." Heat flooded Elena's cheeks. Even after weeks of marriage, she still wasn't used to the way he looked at her, like she was precious, desired, worth protecting. The car ride to the venue was quiet. Damien's thumb traced absent patterns on her hand, a gesture that might have been soothing if Elena's nerves weren't screaming. "Remember what we discussed," he said as they pulled up to the hotel hosting the gala. "Stay close to me. Don't accept drinks from anyone except staff I've vetted. If someone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately." "You make it sound like a war zone." "It is." Damien's expression was grim. "Just one where the weapons are smiles and champagne instead of guns and knives. More civilized, but just as deadly." The hotel ballroom was spectacular. Soaring ceilings, massive chandeliers, walls of windows overlooking the city. And everywhere, beautiful people in expensive clothes, their laughter bright and their eyes calculating. Elena felt the attention shift the moment they entered. Conversations paused. Heads turned. The whispers started immediately. "That's her, the new Mrs. Moretti. Not what I expected." "Where's Caroline? I thought—" "Substitution, apparently." "How scandalous." Damien's hand tightened on Elena's waist. "Ignore them. Let them talk. By the end of tonight, they'll know exactly who you are." A man approached, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of commanding presence that spoke of old money and older power. "Damien, good to see you." "Marcus?" Damien's tone was carefully neutral. "Elena, this is Marcus Castellane. He runs most of the shipping operations on the East Coast. Marcus, my wife, Elena." Marcus's handshake was firm, his smile polished. "A pleasure. I admit I was surprised to hear about the wedding. So sudden. When you find the right person, why wait?" Damien's response was smooth, practiced. "Indeed." Marcus's attention shifted to Elena, assessing. "You're not the heart daughter I was expecting." "No," Elena agreed. "I'm better." The words came out before she could stop them. Marcus blinked, surprised. Then he laughed, genuine and approving. "Spirit, I like that." He raised his glass in salute. "Welcome to the family business, Mrs. Moretti. You'll need that fire." As he moved away, Damien leaned down to murmur in her ear, "Well played." "Was it? I didn't think—" "That's what made it perfect. Natural confidence is worth more than rehearsed charm." His lips brushed her temple. "Keep being yourself, Elena. It's working." They circulated through the room, Damien introducing her to an endless stream of faces and names. Elena tried to remember them all, matching faces to the files she'd studied. The Castellanes controlled shipping. The Russos had construction and real estate. The Chen family ran half the restaurants and most of the protection rackets in Chinatown. On and on, a web of power and influence that stretched across the entire city. And threading through it all were the undercurrents, old grudges, current alliances, future betrayals waiting to happen. "Damien," a woman's voice, smooth as silk. "How lovely to see you here." Elena turned to find an older woman approaching, elegant in ivory, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her was a younger woman, beautiful and cold, watching Damien with barely concealed hunger. "Vivian," Damien said carefully. "Elena, this is Vivian Russo and her daughter Sophia. The Russo family has been allied with the Morettis for 3 generations." allied. But the way Sophia looked at Damien suggested she'd hoped for something more than alliance. "Your new bride," Vivian said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Such a surprise. We all thought Caroline—" "Plans change," Damien interrupted smoothly. "Elena is exactly what I wanted." Sophia's laugh was brittle. "How romantic! Though one does wonder about the rush. No engagement period, no proper courtship, almost as if something necessitated the urgency." The implication hung in the air like poison. Elena felt her face heat. "Careful, Sophia." Damien's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You're speaking about my wife. I'm merely observing. You're being rude." Elena stepped forward, channeling every lesson Mrs. Chen had drilled into her, which I suppose is understandable. It must be difficult watching someone else have what you wanted. Sophia's eyes widened. "Excuse me? Damien, you wanted him. Probably have for years." Elena kept her voice conversational, almost sympathetic. "But he never wanted you back, and now he's married to me. That has to sting." The silence around them was deafening. People were listening now, pretending not to while hanging on every word. Vivian's expression hardened. "How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth?" Elena met the older woman's gaze steadily. "I'm Damien's wife. That makes me a Moretti, which means I don't have to tolerate veiled insults from anyone, allied family or not." Damien's hand on her back was warm, supportive. She could feel the approval radiating from him. Vivian's smile turned sharp. "Spirit, how refreshing. I hope it serves you well, child. This world can be unforgiving to those who don't know their place." "Then it's fortunate I'm learning from the best," Elena gestured to Damien. "My husband has been very educational." Sophia opened her mouth, clearly ready to escalate, but Vivian laid a hand on her daughter's arm. "Come, Sophia. I believe the Castellans wanted to speak with us." They swept away, leaving tension in their wake. Elena released a shaky breath. "Did I just make enemies of an allied family?" "You just showed them you won't be walked over." Damien turned her to face him fully, pride written across his features. "The Russos respect strength. You gave them exactly what they needed to see." "I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm going to throw up." His laugh was low, intimate. "Bravery isn't the absence of fear, Elena. It's acting despite it. And you're the bravest person in this room." Before she could respond, Vincent approached, the man from their wedding reception, his smile just as cold. "Damien, Mrs. Moretti." He nodded to Elena. "Quite the impression you're making tonight." "Is that disapproval I hear, Vincent?" Damien's tone was mild, but Elena could feel the tension coiling through him. "Observation." Vincent sipped his champagne. "Though I must admit, I'm curious about the sudden change in brides. One might wonder if there's more to the story than mere preference." "One might mind their own business," Elena said before Damien could respond. Vincent's eyebrows rose. Such fire. "Tell me, Mrs. Moretti, do you have any idea what kind of world your husband operates in?" "I'm learning." "Are you?" Vincent leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Did he tell you about the accident? About who might have caused it?" Elena's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "Vincent." Damien's voice was ice. "This conversation is over." "Is it? Or are there questions your bride deserves answers to?" Vincent's smile was cruel. 5 years ago, someone tried to kill you, Damien. The investigation went nowhere. No suspects. No arrests. But everyone wondered, who benefits from a dead Moretti heir? "Get to your point," Damien growled. "My point is that your pretty wife has walked into a viper's nest without knowing who the vipers are. That seems unfair." Vincent turned to Elena. "Has he told you about the family business? The real family business? Or does he keep you sheltered, playing house while he gets his hands dirty?" "That's enough." Damien stepped between them, his posture radiating threat. "You're out of line." "Am I? Or am I the only one being honest with her?" Vincent backed away, hands raised in mock surrender. "Think about it, Mrs. Moretti. Ask yourself what you really know about the man you married. And more importantly, ask yourself who wants him dead." He disappeared into the crowd, leaving Elena's mind spinning. "Don't listen to him," Damien said tightly. "Vincent thrives on chaos and doubt." "Is it true? Did someone try to kill you?" "Yes." no hesitation. But that's not a conversation for here. Later, Elena. I'll tell you everything later. A commotion near the entrance caught everyone's attention. Elena turned to see Lena Ward sweeping into the ballroom, wearing a red dress that clung to every curve and drawing stares like a magnet. "Oh no," Elena breathed. Damien's jaw clenched. She wasn't on the guest list. "She's here now." Elena watched Lena scan the room, her gaze locking on them with unmistakable triumph. "And she looks like she's here to make a scene." Lena glided toward them, her smile bright and vicious. "Damien, Elena, what a lovely party." You weren't invited," Damien said flatly. "No? How strange. I could have sworn I received an invitation." Lena produced a gilt-edged card from her clutch. "See? Right here." Damien took it, his expression darkening. "This is a forgery." "Is it? Or perhaps someone wanted me here. Someone who thinks the truth should come out." Lena's gaze slid to Elena, predatory. "Tell me, Mrs. Moretti, has your husband been honest with you about our past? I know you dated. I know you left when he needed you. That's all I need to know." Elena kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Do you know why I left?" Lena stepped closer, her voice carrying to the people watching avidly around them. "Do you know what the doctors said after the accident?" "Lena, I'm warning you," Damien started. "They said he might never father children." Lena spoke over him, her words dropping like bombs. The injuries were extensive. Damage to his spine, his pelvis. They said even if he survived, even if he recovered, he might be incapable. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Elena felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on them. "That's why I left," Lena continued, false sympathy dripping from every word. "I couldn't tie my future to a man who couldn't give me a family. Surely you understand, Elena. A woman has to think of these things." Elena's hands clenched into fists. A woman also has to think about loyalty, honor, love, things you clearly know nothing about. "Love?" Lena laughed. "Is that what you call this arrangement? You barely know him. This marriage is a transaction, nothing more." "You're right. I barely know him." Elena stepped forward, channeling every ounce of courage she possessed. "But I know he's stronger than you ever gave him credit for. I know he survived something that should have killed him. I know he rebuilt an empire while recovering from injuries that would have broken a lesser man. And I know he's worth more than someone who measured his value by what he could give her instead of who he was." The crowd was silent now, captivated. Lena's smile turned sharp. "How noble. But there's something you should know, Elena. Something I think this crowd deserves to know." "Don't," Damien warned, his voice deadly. "I'm pregnant." Lena's hand drifted to her stomach. "With Damien's child." The world tilted. Elena heard the words, saw Lena's triumphant expression, felt the shock rippling through the ballroom. But none of it seemed real. Pregnant. With Damien's child. "That's impossible, Damien said, his voice cutting through the rising murmur. "We haven't been together in 5 years." "Haven't we?" Lena's smile was poison. "Are you certain, Damien? Remember that business dinner 3 months ago? The one where we talked about old times? Where you had a bit too much to drink?" Elena watched Damien's face, searching for truth, for denial, for anything to anchor her spinning world. "You're lying," Damien said, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Am I? We can do a paternity test if you'd like, though that seems unnecessary given the timing." Lena looked at Elena with false pity. "I'm so sorry to break the news this way, but you deserve to know the truth about your husband." Elena couldn't breathe. The room was closing in, faces pressing closer, whispers growing louder. This was a nightmare. It had to be. "Elena." Damien reached for her, but she stepped back instinctively. "Is it true?" Her voice came out small, broken. "Did you sleep with her 3 months ago?" Damien's hesitation was answer enough. Something inside Elena shattered. She'd been wrong, so desperately wrong. This wasn't a fairy tale. Damien wasn't her salvation. She was just another transaction, another piece on his chessboard. "I need air," she whispered. She pushed through the crowd, ignoring Damien calling her name, ignoring the pitying looks and hungry stares. She just needed to get out, to breathe, to think. The hotel terrace was blessedly empty. Elena gripped the railing, gulping down cold air that tasted of rain and exhaust. The city sprawled below her, indifferent to her pain. Pregnant. Lena was pregnant with Damien's child. After everything he'd said about loyalty, about trust, about choosing Elena, he'd slept with his ex, while they were engaged, even if Elena hadn't known about it yet. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. Elena. Damien's voice was rough. Please, let me explain. What's to explain? She's pregnant. You slept with her. Those are facts. I don't remember that night. Damien moved closer, but didn't touch her. That dinner, something was wrong. I had 2 drinks, maybe 3, but I woke up the next morning in my office with gaps in my memory. I thought it was stress, exhaustion, but now you think she drugged you? Elena turned to face him. That's convenient. It's the truth. Damien's expression was desperate. Elena, I would never betray you like that. Even before we were married, the engagement was binding in my world. I don't break my word. Then explain how she's pregnant with your child. I can't. The admission seemed torn from him. Not yet, but I will. I'll find out the truth, I swear to you. Elena wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to believe that this was all some elaborate lie, some scheme by Lena to destroy what they were building. But doubt was a poison, and it was spreading fast. I need time, she said quietly, space to think. Elena, please, don't. She held up a hand. I'm not leaving. I'm not running. But I can't be near you right now. I can't look at you without seeing her, without wondering if everything you've said has been a lie. Pain flashed across Damien's face. I've never lied to you. Haven't you? You said we'd be honest with each other. You said trust was everything. But you never mentioned a night with Lena. You never mentioned there was even a possibility. Because I didn't think there was. Damien ran a hand through his hair, frustration and desperation warring in his expression. Elena, I'm asking you to trust me. One more time, let me investigate this. Let me prove she's lying. And if she's not? Silence. If she's not lying, Damien finally said, his voice low and fierce, then someone set this up. Someone drugged me, used Lena to create a weapon against me, against us, and I will find them and destroy them. Elena wanted to believe him, but her heart was broken, and broken things didn't heal overnight. I'm going home, she said. Alone. You stay. Do damage control. Play whatever political games you need to play. But don't follow me tonight. Elena, please, Damien. Her voice cracked. If you care about me at all, give me this. He stared at her for a long moment, conflict written in every line of his body. Finally, he nodded once, sharp and defeated. I'll have a car brought around. Security will go with you. Fine. He pulled out his phone, made the call, then turned back to her. This isn't over. I know. I will prove my innocence. I will find out what happened, and I will make whoever did this pay. The deadly promise in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it was almost comforting. I hope you're right, Elena whispered, because if you're not, if you really did betray me, I don't think I'll survive it. She walked away before he could respond, before she could give in to the urge to throw herself into his arms and pretend none of this was happening. The ride home was silent. Elena stared out the window, numb and aching. She'd been so stupid to believe she could have something real, something lasting. People like her didn't get fairy tales. Mrs. Chen was waiting when Elena arrived, her expression worried. Mrs. Moretti, I heard, I don't want to talk about it. Elena's voice was hollow. I just want to sleep. Of course. But first there's something you should know. Elena paused on the stairs. What? Your mother called. She wants to see you, says it's urgent. Fresh tears threatened. Elena hadn't seen her mother since before the wedding, hadn't wanted to expose her to this world. But right now she desperately needed someone who loved her unconditionally. Where is she? Still at the house Mr. Moretti arranged. I can have a car ready in 10 minutes. Please. The drive to her mother's temporary home felt eternal. When Elena finally knocked on the door, it opened to reveal a woman who looked healthier than Elena had seen her in months. The medications Damien provided were working. Her mother's eyes were clear, her color better, but right now, those clear eyes were full of concern. "Elena, baby, what's wrong?" Elena broke. She fell into her mother's arms and sobbed, all the pain and fear and betrayal pouring out in great heaving waves. Her mother held her, stroking her hair, murmuring comfort. Finally, when Elena could speak, she told her everything. The arranged marriage, Damien, the growing feelings between them. And now, Lena's announcement. Her mother listened without judgment, then took Elena's face in her hands. "Do you believe he betrayed you?" "I don't know what to believe." "Yes, you do." Her mother's voice was gentle but firm. "In your gut, in your heart, what do you believe?" Elena closed her eyes, searching past the hurt and doubt. What did she believe? She believed Damien when he said he valued loyalty. She believed the way he looked at her was real. She believed he would never have married her if he'd known Lena was pregnant. "I believe he's telling the truth," she whispered. "I believe someone did this to him. To us." "Then you fight for him." Her mother squeezed her hands. "Love isn't easy, sweetheart. It requires trust even when it's hard. Faith even when it's frightening. If you believe in him, you stand by him." "But what if I'm wrong?" "Then you'll survive. You're stronger than you know, Elena. But I think you'll regret it more if you walk away from something real, because you were afraid." Elena absorbed this, letting her mother's wisdom settle over the chaos in her mind. She'd told Damien she needed space, but maybe what she really needed was to choose him, actively and consciously, despite the doubt, to show him the same loyalty he'd shown her. "I need to go home," Elena said. Her mother smiled. "Go, fight for your marriage, and call me tomorrow." The drive back to the mansion felt different. Elena wasn't running away anymore. She was running toward something, toward the truth, toward Damien, toward the future they could build if she was brave enough to trust. The house was dark when she arrived, save for a light in Damien's office. Elena found him there, sitting at his desk, surrounded by files and laptop screens, his jacket discarded and tie loosened. He looked up when she entered, exhaustion and hope warring in his expression. "Elena, I talked to my mother." She closed the door behind her. "She reminded me that love requires trust." Damien stood slowly. "And what do you trust?" "I trust that you're telling me the truth. I trust that someone is trying to destroy us. And I trust that we're stronger together than apart." Elena crossed to him, her hands shaking but her voice steady. "So whatever this is, whatever's happening, we face it together." Something broke in Damien's expression. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. "I will find the truth," he promised against her hair. "I will protect you. I will prove I'm worthy of this trust." "I know." And she did. Because beneath the doubt and fear, she knew Damien Moretti was a man of his word. They stood like that for a long moment, drawing strength from each other. Then Damien pulled back, his expression turning grim. "I've already started investigating. The baby, if it exists, will demand a paternity test the moment it's born. But I think this goes deeper than Lena." "What do you mean?" Damien pulled up something on his computer. "The invitation she had tonight. It was a perfect forgery, but forgeries leave traces. I have people tracking down who made it. And that night 3 months ago, I pulled security footage from the restaurant. Look." Elena watched the grainy video. Damien, clearly uncomfortable, barely drinking. And across from him, Lena, her hand moving over his glass when he looked away. "She drugged you." "It appears so, which means this was planned, calculated." Damien's jaw clenched. "But drugging me to sleep with me, that requires opportunity, access, help." "You think someone helped her?" "I know someone did. Lena isn't smart enough to pull this off alone. She's a pawn." Damien pulled up another file. "The question is, who's the player?" Elena stared at the screens, files, evidence. This was Damien's world. Shadows and conspiracies, power plays, and calculated strikes. And now it was her world too. "Then we find them," she said. "We find whoever's behind this and we make them pay." Damien's smile was sharp and proud. "Now you sound like a Moretti." But before they could plan their next move, Damien's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "It's the hospital." He answered, listened, and went pale. We'll be right there. What is it? Elena's heart hammered. Your mother. Damien was already moving, grabbing his jacket. She collapsed. They don't know if she'll make it through the night. Elena's world tilted again, but this time for an entirely different reason. Her mother. The woman who'd just given her the strength to fight. The woman who was supposed to be getting better, not dying. No, Elena whispered. No, this can't be happening. But Damien's grim expression said it was. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was laughing at the chaos they'd created. The hospital hallway smelled of antiseptic and fear. Elena ran, her heels clicking against the linoleum, Damien's hand firm on her back as they rushed toward the intensive care unit. Nurses moved aside as they approached, their faces professionally blank but their eyes sympathetic. A doctor met them outside her mother's room, his expression grave. Mrs. Moretti, I'm Dr. Patel. Your mother suffered a severe cardiac event. We've stabilized her for now, but the next 24 hours are critical. Elena's legs threatened to give out. Damien's arm around her waist was the only thing keeping her upright. I don't understand. Her voice shook. She was getting better. The medications, the care, she was better. Dr. Patel's expression flickered with something Elena couldn't read. Mrs. Hart's current condition is complicated by the presence of a toxic substance in her bloodstream. We're running tests to identify it, but preliminary results suggest she was poisoned. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Poisoned? Elena's voice rose. How? By what? We don't know yet. But the onset was recent. Within the last 12 hours. Do you know what she ate or drank today? Elena's mind raced. I saw her a few hours ago. She was fine. She made tea while we talked. That's all I saw. We'll need to examine everything in her home. Dr. Patel glanced at Damien. Mr. Moretti, I've already contacted the police as required by law. They'll want to speak with both of you. Damien's expression was carved from ice. Of course. But first, my wife needs to see her mother. The doctor nodded and stepped aside. Elena's mother looked small in the hospital bed, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow. An oxygen mask covered her face. Mom! Elena sank into the chair beside the bed, taking her mother's hand. The fingers were cold, fragile. Please don't leave me, please. Damien stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. She's strong, Elena. She'll fight. But Elena heard the doubt beneath his words. This wasn't an accident. Someone had done this. Someone had poisoned her mother. And Elena knew with sick certainty that it was connected to everything else, to Lena's announcement, to the conspiracy against Damien, to the web of lies closing around them. A nurse entered quietly. I'm sorry, but you'll need to limit your time. She needs rest. Elena wanted to refuse, wanted to stay until her mother woke up. But she nodded, pressing a kiss to her mother's forehead. I'll be back, she whispered. I'll find who did this. I promise. Outside the room, two detectives waited. A man and a woman, both wearing expressions of professional concern. Mr. and Mrs. Moretti, the woman said. I'm Detective Sarah Chen. This is my partner, Detective Marcus Wright. We need to ask you some questions. They were led to a private waiting room. Damien sat beside Elena, his posture protective, his hand never leaving hers. When did you last see Mrs. Hart? Detective Chen asked. About 3 hours ago. Elena's voice was steady despite the chaos inside her. I went to visit her. We talked for maybe an hour. She made tea. Did she seem upset? Anxious? Was anything unusual? No, she was happy. She looked healthier than she has in months. Elena's throat tightened. She gave me advice about my marriage, about trust and fighting for what matters. Detective Wright leaned forward. Mrs. Moretti, we need to ask, are there any people who might want to harm your mother? Any enemies, disputes, threats? Elena almost laughed. Her mother had no enemies. She was gentle, kind, invisible to the world. But Elena wasn't invisible anymore. No one wanted to hurt my mother, she said slowly, but someone might want to hurt me, and hurting her is the best way to do it. The detectives exchanged glances. Explain. Damien's grip tightened on her hand. My wife has been targeted since our marriage. Tonight, at a charity gala, a woman made serious accusations designed to damage our relationship and my reputation. This attack on her mother follows too closely to be coincidence. What kind of accusations? Detective Chen's pen was poised over her notepad. A woman named Lena Ward claimed to be pregnant with my child. The claim is false, but the timing suggests coordination. Damien's voice was controlled, factual. Someone is orchestrating a campaign against my family. Mrs. Hart is collateral damage. Detective Wright's expression hardened. Mr. Moretti, are you suggesting this is connected to your business activities? The implication was clear. They thought this was mob violence, criminal retaliation. I'm suggesting someone is trying to destroy my marriage by any means necessary. Damien met the detective's eyes steadily. And I intend to find out who. The questioning continued for another hour. Elena answered mechanically, her mind fracturing between her mother's pale face and the growing certainty that this was all connected. Lena's pregnancy announcement, her mother's poisoning, the forged invitation. Someone was pulling strings, moving pieces on a board Elena couldn't fully see. Finally, the detectives let them go with warnings to stay available and not to leave the city. Damien guided Elena back to her mother's room, where she could at least sit and keep vigil. I'm calling in every resource I have, Damien said quietly, pulling out his phone. Security will sweep your mother's house. My people will analyze everything, food, drink, medication. We'll find what poisoned her. And then what? Elena's voice was hollow. We find who did it and they go to jail? That doesn't bring her back if she dies. She won't die. Damien crouched beside her chair, forcing her to meet his eyes. Your mother is a fighter. She survived poverty, illness, abandonment. She'll survive this too. Elena wanted to believe him, but faith was hard when the machines kept beeping their uncertain rhythm. Damien made calls while Elena sat with her mother. She heard him speaking in low, urgent tones, ordering tests, demanding results, threatening consequences. This was the Mafia king everyone feared, unleashed and furious. An hour later, one of Damien's men arrived with a preliminary report. Elena listened as they spoke in the hallway, just out of her mother's room. The tea was clean, so was the food in the house, but we found this in the bathroom. The man held up a bag containing pill bottles. Her medications, 3 of them had been tampered with, pills replaced with something else. Elena's blood turned to ice. The medications Damien provided, someone poisoned them. Someone with access to the supply chain, Damien said grimly, which means someone inside my organization or someone who can infiltrate it. The implications were staggering. Whoever was doing this didn't just want to hurt Elena or Damien. They wanted to prove that Damien couldn't protect what was his, that his power meant nothing. Elena stood abruptly. I want to go home. Damien studied her face. Your mother. There's nothing I can do here except watch machines and pray. But there's something I can do at home. Elena's voice hardened. I can help you find who did this. Elena, this is dangerous. I don't care. She faced him fully, letting him see the fury burning through her grief. Someone poisoned my mother to hurt me. To hurt us. I'm done being a victim. I'm done waiting for other people to save me. Teach me. Use me. Let me help you hunt these people down. Something shifted in Damien's expression, surprise giving way to fierce approval. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They returned to the mansion as dawn broke, the sky bleeding pink and gold over Greyhaven's skyline. But there was no peace in the beauty. Elena felt like she was watching the world through glass, separate and cold. Mrs. Chen met them at the door, her face drawn with concern. Mr. Moretti, you have visitors. They insisted it couldn't wait. Who? Your cousin, Nicholas, and several members of the family council. Damien's expression darkened. Of course, the vultures smell blood. He led Elena to his office where 5 people waited. Elena recognized Nicholas Moretti from the files she'd studied. Damien's cousin, ambitious and calculating, always positioned just close enough to power to grab it if Damien faltered. Damien, Nicholas stood, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. We heard about the incident with Mrs. Hart. Terrible tragedy. What do you want, Nicholas? Damien's tone was flat. The family council is concerned. First, the scandal at the gala with Miss Ward's announcement. Now, your mother-in-law poisoned under your protection. It raises questions about your ability to maintain control. Elena felt Damien tense beside her. This was a challenge, barely veiled. My personal life is not the council's concern, Damien said coldly. Isn't it? An older woman spoke up, Damien's aunt, Maria. When your personal life affects business relationships, when it makes our allies question your judgment, it becomes everyone's concern. My judgment is sound. Is it? Nicholas leaned against the desk, feigning casual interest. You married a woman you barely knew, bypassing the arranged match with the Hart family that would have cemented important business ties. Then it comes out that you may have fathered a child with your ex. And now someone has successfully breached your security to poison a member of your household. These are not the actions of a man in control. Elena watched Damien's hands clench into fists. He was holding himself back by sheer will. Get to your point, he growled. The council thinks you should step back, temporarily. Nicholas's smile was sympathetic, poisonous. Just until things settle. I could assume leadership duties, maintain stability. No. Damien's voice cracked like a whip. I'm not stepping back from anything. Then you leave us no choice. Maria stood, her expression regretful but firm. We're calling a formal challenge. The council will vote on your continued leadership within the week. The room fell silent. Elena didn't fully understand the implications, but she could feel the weight of them. You're making a mistake, Damien said quietly. We're protecting the family. Nicholas moved toward the door. Nothing personal, cousin. Just business. They filed out, leaving Elena and Damien alone in the wreckage of the challenge. What just happened? Elena asked. A coup. Damien's voice was bitter. They're using the chaos around us to question my leadership. If they get enough votes, I could lose everything. Control of the businesses, the family assets, my position. Everything I've built. Can they do that? Family law is different from regular law. If the council declares me unfit, I have limited recourse. Damien sank into his chair, looking more exhausted than Elena had ever seen him. I've spent 5 years rebuilding my power after the accident, 5 years proving I was strong enough to lead, and now they're trying to take it all away. Elena's mind raced. This was what someone wanted. The pregnancy scandal, her mother's poisoning, the public humiliation, it was all designed to weaken Damien, to make him look vulnerable. This is connected, she said slowly. Lena, the poison, the council challenge. Someone orchestrated all of it. Obviously, but who? Damien looked up at her. Who benefits from my fall? Nicholas. The answer was immediate. He gets to take over if you're removed. Nicholas is ambitious, but he's not subtle enough for this. He's the beneficiary, not the architect. Damien pulled up files on his computer. No, this is someone smarter, someone patient, someone who's been planning this for years. Elena thought back to the gala, to Vincent's pointed questions about Damien's accident. What if it goes back further? What if whoever tried to kill you 5 years ago is finishing what they started? Damien went still. The accident. You said you never found who tampered with your car. What if they've been waiting, planning, building to this moment? Elena leaned over the desk, her exhaustion forgotten in the surge of clarity. Think about it. They tried to kill you and failed, so they waited for you to rebuild, to get comfortable, and now they're destroying you piece by piece. Not your body this time, your reputation, your power, your family. And using you to do it. Damien's eyes darkened. They chose your mother as a target because hurting her hurts you, which destabilizes me. They used Lena because my past with her creates doubt in our marriage. Every move has been calculated to exploit our weaknesses. So we find them. Elena's voice was steel. We find them and we destroy them first. Damien studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into a drawer and pulled out a file, sliding it across the desk. If we're doing this, you need to understand what you're getting into. This file contains information about my accident, the investigation, the suspects. It's not pleasant reading. Elena opened the file. Inside were police reports, hospital records, photographs of the crash scene. Her stomach turned at the images. Twisted metal, broken glass, blood. The police concluded it was a mechanical failure, Damien said quietly. But my people found evidence of tampering. The brake lines had been cut, but carefully, so they'd fail gradually. Whoever did it wanted me to have an accident at high speed where survival was unlikely. Who had access to your car? That's the problem. Dozens of people. Valets, mechanics, household staff, anyone who came to the estate. The investigation went nowhere because the suspect pool was too large. Elena flipped through the reports, looking for patterns. Then something caught her eye, a name in the witness statements. Lena Ward gave a statement? She was with me that evening. We'd had dinner. She left right before I got in the car. Damien's expression was grim. She was cleared as a suspect because she had an alibi for the time the car was tampered with. But she could have helped someone else. Elena's mind spun. She could have made sure you got in that specific car at that specific time. I considered that, but why? What would she gain? Maybe nothing then. But what if someone promised her something now? What if whoever orchestrated the accident offered her a deal? Help destroy your marriage, claim she's pregnant with your child, and she gets money, status, revenge for feeling rejected? Elena looked up at Damien. She's not smart enough to plan this, but she's vain enough and bitter enough to be a perfect weapon. Damien's expression sharpened. If that's true, we need to find who's controlling her. A knock interrupted them. Mrs. Chen entered, her face pale. Mr. Moretti, I apologize for the interruption, but there's been another incident. Elena's heart sank. What now? Your sister, Caroline, she's here, and she's brought reporters. Through the window, Elena could see news vans pulling up to the gates, and standing in front of them, microphone in hand, was her half-sister. Caroline looked perfect as always, polished, poised, speaking with practiced emotion to the cameras. Elena couldn't hear what she was saying, but she could imagine. Turn on the news, Damien ordered. Mrs. Chen activated the television mounted on the wall. Caroline's face filled the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks. Forced into this marriage, Caroline was saying. My father threatened both of us. He sold my sister to a dangerous man, and when I tried to intervene, he threatened my life. I'm coming forward now because I can't stay silent anymore. Elena is in danger. Damien Moretti is a violent criminal who... Damien muted the television, his face carved from stone. She's lying, Elena breathed. Every word is a lie. Of course she is, but the damage is done. Damien pulled up his phone where messages were already flooding in. This will be on every news outlet by noon. Your sister is painting you as a victim and me as your captor. Why would she do this? Because someone paid her to, or threatened her, or both. Damien's voice was cold with fury. This is the final piece. Scandal at the gala, your mother poisoned, the council challenge, and now public accusations of forced marriage and criminal activity. Whoever's behind this wants me destroyed from every angle, personal, political, and now legal. Elena watched her sister on the screen, performing grief and concern for the cameras. Part of her wanted to rage, to confront Caroline and expose her lies, but a larger part was calculating, thinking. This is too coordinated, she said slowly. Lena makes her announcement at the gala. My mother is poisoned the same night. The council moves against you immediately, and now Caroline appears with reporters. The timing is too perfect. Someone with resources and reach, someone who could coordinate multiple attacks simultaneously. Damien pulled up a map on one of his screens. Let's work backwards. Who benefits from each piece? They spent the next hour dissecting the conspiracy. Lena's pregnancy claim benefited anyone who wanted to damage Damien's marriage. The poisoning benefited anyone who wanted to terrorize Elena and prove Damien couldn't protect his family. The council challenge benefited Nicholas and his allies. Caroline's accusations benefited anyone who wanted legal pressure on Damien. But who benefited from all of it together? Someone who wants you completely destroyed, Elena said finally. Not just weakened, not just challenged, destroyed. Your marriage ruined, your reputation shattered, your power stripped away, and you potentially facing criminal charges. Which brings us back to the original question. Damien's eyes were dark. Who hates me enough to orchestrate something this elaborate? A memory surfaced. Vincent at the gala, asking pointed questions about the accident, dropping hints about who might want Damien dead. Vincent knew something, Elena said. When he approached us at the gala, he was testing me, trying to plant doubt. What if he knows who's behind this? Vincent is loyal to himself and money, in that order. If he knows something, he's being paid to keep quiet. Damien stood, pacing. But you're right. His timing was too convenient. He's involved somehow. Can we force him to talk? Not legally, but there are other ways. Damien's smile was sharp and cold. Vincent has secrets. Everyone does. We just need to find the right pressure point. Before they could plan further, Damien's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression went rigid. It's the hospital. Elena's world stopped. She watched Damien answer, watched his face as he listened, watched hope and fear war in his eyes. We'll be right there, he said finally, hanging up. Is she... Elena couldn't finish the question. She's awake, weak but stable. The doctor says she's asking for you. Relief crashed through Elena so hard she nearly collapsed. Damien caught her, held her steady. She's going to make it, he murmured. Your mother is going to make it. They drove to the hospital through a gauntlet of reporters, cameras flashing as their car passed. Caroline's accusations had turned them into a spectacle, their private pain now public entertainment. But Elena didn't care. Her mother was alive. They found her propped up in bed, the oxygen mask removed, her color better. When she saw Elena, tears spilled down her cheeks. Baby, she whispered, her voice raspy. I'm so sorry. Sorry? Elena sank into the chair beside the bed. Mom, you have nothing to be sorry for. I should have been more careful, should have checked. Her mother's voice broke. Someone came to the house yesterday, before you visited, said they were from the pharmacy, needed to verify my medications. I let them take the bottles to check them. Elena's blood ran cold. What did they look like? A woman, young, blonde, very professional. Her mother's brow furrowed. She showed me identification, said it was routine quality control. Blonde, professional. Elena met Damien's eyes and saw the same conclusion forming. Was her name Lena? Damien asked quietly. Elena's mother looked confused. No, she said her name was Sarah, but now that you mention it, she did seem nervous. Kept looking at her phone like she was waiting for instructions. Not Lena directly, but someone working with her. Someone who poisoned the medications and returned them, ensuring Elena's mother would take them without suspicion. Did you see a car? Any other details? Damien's voice was controlled, but Elena could feel the rage coiling beneath. A black sedan. I'm sorry, I didn't think to look at the plates. She seemed so official. It's okay, Mom. You couldn't have known. Elena squeezed her hand gently. What matters is you're safe now. We're going to keep you safe. Her mother's eyes moved between them. What's happening, Elena? The nurse mentioned something about the news, about accusations. Nothing you need to worry about. But Elena's mother had always been able to read her. Don't lie to me. What's your sister done now? Elena exchanged a glance with Damien, then decided her mother deserved the truth. She explained Caroline's press conference, the lies about forced marriage. Her mother's expression hardened in a way Elena rarely saw. That girl, after everything your father did to you, she has the nerve to... She broke off, coughing. Rest, Mom, please. No. Her mother's grip tightened on Elena's hand. Listen to me. Caroline didn't come up with this on her own. She's not smart enough, and she's too selfish to risk her own reputation without serious incentive. Someone paid her, Damien said, or threatened her, or both. Elena's mother looked at him directly. Mr. Moretti, I know what people say about you, what they think you are. But I see how you look at my daughter. I see how you've protected her, cared for her. Whatever's happening, whoever's doing this, don't let them win. Don't let them destroy what you're building together. Damien's expression softened. I won't. You have my word. A nurse appeared in the doorway. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Hart needs rest. You can come back during visiting hours this afternoon. Elena wanted to protest, but her mother was already looking exhausted. Go, her mother said. Do what you need to do. I'll be here when you get back. Outside the hospital, reporters mobbed them. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, questions shouted over each other. Mrs. Moretti, is it true you were forced into marriage? Mr. Moretti, do you have a comment on Miss Ward's pregnancy? Is it true Elena's mother was poisoned in your home? Damien's security formed a barrier, pushing through the crowd. But one reporter broke through, getting close enough for Elena to see the hunger in his eyes. "Mrs. Moretti, your sister says you're being held against your will. Are you here of your own free choice?" Something in Elena snapped. She stopped, despite Damien's hand on her arm, and faced the reporter. "My sister is a liar. I married Damien Moretti of my own free will. I remain with him of my own free will. And anyone who suggests otherwise is participating in a coordinated attack designed to destroy my family." The reporter's eyes gleamed. "So you deny being coerced?" "I deny everything my sister said. She's being used by people who want to hurt my husband and myself. And when we find out who's behind this, they will face consequences." She let Damien pull her into the car before the questions could continue. As they drove away, she could see the reporters already typing on their phones, her words about to be broadcast everywhere. "That was either brilliant or incredibly reckless," Damien said. "I'm tired of being silent, tired of letting other people control the narrative." Elena's hand shook with adrenaline. "If we're going to fight this, we fight it head on." "Then we fight." Damien's phone buzzed. He read the message and his expression hardened. "My people found the car used to deliver the poisoned medications. Registered to a shell company. Same company that paid for Lena's hotel room the night she claims we were together. Can you trace it?" "I'm working on it, but shell companies are designed to hide ownership. It'll take time we might not have." Damien's jaw clenched. "The council vote is in 5 days. If I can't prove my innocence and expose who's behind this before then, I lose everything." "Then we have 5 days." Elena's voice was steel. 5 days to hunt down the truth and destroy whoever thought they could destroy us. They spent the rest of the day in Damien's office, coordinating their counterattack. Financial experts traced shell companies. Investigators interviewed everyone who'd been near Damien's car the night of the accident 5 years ago. Tech specialists analyzed the forged invitation and the timing of Caroline's press conference. Slowly, pieces began to connect. The shell company had ties to offshore accounts. Those accounts had received large deposits from a holding company owned by the Russo family, Damien breathed, staring at the screen. Elena's mind raced. Sophia Russo, who'd wanted Damien. Vivian Russo, who'd been insulted at the gala. Could they really orchestrate all this? Elena asked. The Russos are powerful, connected, and they've always resented that my family maintains more influence. Damien pulled up more files, but they're allies. Attacking me would risk a full-scale war between families. Unless they thought they could make it look like accidents and scandals instead of direct attacks. Elena leaned over the desk. What if they're planning to take over after you're removed? They support Nicholas's challenge. He becomes leader, and suddenly they have control over Moretti operations. It fits. Damien's expression was grim. But it's not enough. We need proof. Hard evidence that connects the Russos to Lena, to the poisoning, to everything. A knock interrupted them. Mrs. Chen entered with a visitor, Rita, Elena's self-defense instructor, her face urgent. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but you need to hear this." Rita glanced at Mrs. Chen, who nodded and left. "I have a friend who works private security. She was hired last month to tail someone. A woman. She didn't think much of it until she saw the news today and recognized the face." "Who was she tailing?" Damien asked. "Lena Ward. The client wanted to know everywhere she went, everyone she met." Rita pulled out her phone, showing them photos, including multiple meetings with this woman. The photo showed Lena sitting in a cafe with another woman, a woman Elena recognized, Victoria Moretti, Damien's mother. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Elena felt Damien go rigid beside her. "My mother," he said, his voice hollow. "My own mother is behind this." But Rita shook her head. "Not exactly. Keep looking." She swiped to the next photo. Victoria and Lena, yes. But in the background, partially obscured, was a third person. A man Elena didn't recognize. Older, distinguished, with cold eyes. "Who is that?" Elena asked. Damien's face had gone pale. "That's Thomas Moretti, my uncle. He's been in Europe for the last 3 years, or so I thought." "He's been in Greyhaven," Rita confirmed. "Meeting with your mother, meeting with Lena, and according to my friend, meeting with Vincent, Nicholas, and several members of the Russo family. The conspiracy crystallized in Elena's mind. Not one person orchestrating everything, a coalition. Thomas Moretti working with his sister Victoria, using Nicholas's ambition, Russo family resources, Lena's bitterness, and Caroline's greed to destroy Damien from every angle. Why? Elena breathed. Why would his own family do this? Damien's laugh was bitter. Because I'm not supposed to exist. Thomas was next in line before my father married my mother. When I was born, I became the heir instead. Thomas has spent 40 years watching me have everything he thinks should be his. And my mother, his voice cracked. My mother never forgave my father for the affairs, the humiliations. She might as well destroy the son who looks exactly like him. This is insane. This is family. Damien stood, his expression turning cold and dangerous. And they just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Because now I know. And when a Moretti knows his enemies, those enemies don't survive long. Elena recognized the shift in him. This wasn't her husband anymore. This was the Mafia king, unleashed and furious. What are you going to do? She asked. Damien's smile was sharp as a blade. I'm going to give them exactly what they wanted. I'm going to call a family meeting, everyone involved, everyone complicit, and then I'm going to systematically destroy them all. The family meeting was called for the following evening. Damien sent invitations through official channels, his message carefully worded to sound conciliatory. A discussion about the future, about unity, about healing divisions. Everyone who mattered received one. Thomas, Victoria, Nicholas, the Russos, even Vincent, and none of them suspected they were walking into a trap. Elena spent the day preparing with Damien. He showed her recordings, financial transactions, witness statements, every piece of evidence they'd compiled over the past 72 hours. Rita's friend had provided a gold mine of surveillance photos. Damien's tech people had cracked the shell company accounts. Mrs. Chen had quietly interviewed staff members who remembered seeing Thomas in Greyhaven months before he was supposed to have returned. The conspiracy was massive, intricate, and now thoroughly documented. You don't have to be there, Damien said as evening approached. This will get ugly. I'm not hiding. Elena met his eyes steadily. They tried to destroy us. They poisoned my mother. I want to watch them fall. Something fierce and proud blazed in Damien's expression. Then you'll sit beside me, as my wife, as my equal. Let them see exactly what kind of queen they failed to break. The ballroom had been transformed. Not the grand, elegant space from their wedding, but something colder. A long table dominated the center, chairs arranged with precision, screens mounted on the walls, ready to display evidence. Security stationed at every entrance, armed and alert. This wasn't a meeting. It was a trial. The conspirators arrived separately, each wearing carefully crafted masks of concern or innocence. Thomas Moretti entered first, his distinguished bearing unchanged, acting as though he'd been in Europe all along. Victoria followed, her cold beauty wrapped in designer clothes and contempt. Nicholas came with the other council members, confident he was about to claim power. The Russos, Vivian and Sophia, arrived together, their expressions already smug. Vincent slipped in last, his eyes calculating, probably already planning how to profit from whatever transpired. They took their seats around the table, surprised to see Elena sitting at Damien's right hand. Several exchanged glances, clearly expecting her to be broken, defeated, perhaps not even present. Instead, she sat straight-backed and calm, wearing the diamond necklace Damien had given her like armor. "Thank you all for coming," Damien began, his voice carrying easily through the room. "I know there have been concerns about my leadership, questions about my judgment, doubts about my ability to protect this family. We're glad you're taking this seriously," Nicholas said, unable to hide his eagerness. "The events of the past week have been troubling for everyone." "Troubling," Damien repeated softly. "Yes, that's one word for it. Orchestrated would be another. Calculated. Treasonous." The temperature in the room dropped. Thomas leaned back in his chair, his expression mildly curious. "Strong words, nephew. I hope you can back them up." "Oh, I can." Damien gestured, and the screens flickered to life. 5 years ago, someone tried to kill me. They tampered with my car, expecting me to die in the crash. When I survived, they waited. Planned. built an elaborate scheme to destroy me piece by piece. Images appeared on the screens, the wrecked car, hospital records, the original police investigation. The police never found who was responsible, Damien continued, but I never stopped looking. And recently, thanks to my wife's insight, I looked in a new direction, not at my enemies, at my family. Victoria's expression didn't change, but Elena saw her hands tighten on her armrests. That's absurd, Nicholas sputtered. Why would family want to hurt you? Power, Elena said quietly. All eyes turned to her. Inheritance. Revenge. The oldest motives in the world. The girl has clearly been influencing you, Sophia sneered, filling your head with paranoid delusions. The girl, Damien interrupted, his voice cutting, has been the target of a campaign designed to terrorize her into leaving me. First, a fraudulent pregnancy claim. He nodded to the screen, which now showed Lena's medical records. Lena Ward is not pregnant, never was. The whole thing was fabricated. Lena's voice came through speakers, a recording Rita's friend had captured. You promised me money. You promised he'd take me back if I did this. I've done everything you asked. And a man's voice answering, Patience, my dear. Everything is proceeding according to plan. Thomas's voice. That proves nothing, Thomas said calmly. Audio can be faked. True. So let's move on to the poisoning of Elena's mother. The screens shifted to show surveillance footage. A blonde woman entering Elena's mother's house, leaving with pill bottles, returning them an hour later. This woman identified herself as a pharmacy worker. She wasn't. She was hired by, a paper trail appeared on screen. A security company owned by a subsidiary of Russo Holdings. Vivian's face paled. That's circumstantial. We employed dozens of security firms, and one of them just happened to employ someone who poisoned my mother-in-law? Elena's voice was steel. The same day Lena made her announcement, the same day the council challenge was filed. What a remarkable coincidence. You can't prove we knew about any of this, Sophia insisted. Can't I? Damien pulled up more documents. Wire transfers from Thomas Moretti's offshore accounts to the Russo family accounts. Dated payments that correspond exactly with each attack on my wife and myself. Phone records showing dozens of calls between Thomas, Victoria, Nicholas, Vincent, and Vivian Russo over the past 6 months. The screens filled with evidence, financial records, phone logs, emails, surveillance photos, Thomas meeting with Lena, Victoria coaching her on what to say, Nicholas negotiating the terms of his takeover with the Russos, Vincent passing information to all of them, playing every side for profit. The accident 5 years ago, Damien continued relentlessly. Security footage from my estate, recovered from old archives. Watch carefully. Grainy video played showing Damien's car in the garage. A figure approached, worked beneath it for several minutes, then disappeared. The angle was bad, the lighting poor. But when enhanced, zoomed, clarified, the face was unmistakable. Thomas Moretti. The silence in the room was absolute. You, Damien said quietly, his eyes locked on his uncle. You cut my brake lines. You tried to kill me, and when I survived, you spent 5 years planning how to finish the job without getting blood on your hands. Thomas's mask finally cracked, not into guilt or shame, but into cold fury. You were never supposed to live, he said, his voice venomous. The position was mine, the power, the empire, all of it. Your father stole it from me. And then you were supposed to die in that hospital, but you clawed your way back, like a cockroach that won't die. Victoria stood abruptly. Thomas, stop talking. Why? Thomas laughed bitterly. He knows everything. There's no point in pretending anymore. He turned to Damien. Yes, I orchestrated it all. The accident, the attacks on your wife, the pregnancy lie, the poison, all of it. Because you don't deserve what you have. You never did. And you helped him, Damien said to his mother, your own son. You helped him try to destroy me. Victoria's expression was ice. I helped him take back what should have been his. You're just like your father, arrogant, entitled, thinking the world owes you everything. I watched your father humiliate me for years. I won't watch his son rule the empire that should have been Thomas's. Elena felt sick. This was beyond greed or ambition. This was hatred, pure and toxic. Nicholas was already backing toward the door. I didn't know about the murder attempts. I just wanted a leadership position. I didn't know. Security blocked his exit. You knew enough, Damien said coldly. You participated in a coup attempt. That alone is grounds for removal from the family. The Russos? Vivian's voice was desperate. We were simply hedging our bets. Standard business practice. You funded attempts on my life and the poisoning of an innocent woman. Damien's voice was flat, final. That's not business. That's war. Vincent raised his hands. I only passed information. I didn't hurt anyone. You enabled all of it. You knew what they were planning, and you profited from it. Damien's gaze swept the room. Everyone here committed crimes against me, against my wife, against this family, and you all believed you'd win because you underestimated the one person you should have feared most. His hand found Elena's, squeezing gently. Not me, he continued. Her, my wife, the woman you dismissed as nobody. She's the one who saw the patterns you thought you'd hidden. She's the one who refused to break when you terrorized her. She's the one who gave me the strength to fight back when you thought you'd beaten me. Elena felt the weight of every eye in the room, but she didn't shrink. She stood, meeting each gaze steadily. You tried to destroy me because you thought I was weak, she said quietly. You thought I'd run, cry, disappear. But I learned something these past weeks. Strength isn't about being invulnerable. It's about standing back up every time you get knocked down. And I will always stand back up, because I have something worth fighting for. She looked at Damien, letting everyone see the love and loyalty in her eyes. I have him. Thomas laughed, the sound ugly. How touching. But it doesn't matter. Even with all your evidence, you can't touch us. Family law protects family members who act with honor, Damien interrupted. You stopped being family the moment you tried to kill me. And as the head of this family, I'm invoking the old codes, the ones written in blood, not just ink. The room went deadly silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. You wouldn't, Victoria breathed. Wouldn't I? Damien's smile was cold. You tried to murder me, multiple times. You attacked my wife. You poisoned an innocent woman. Under the old codes, the penalty for that is clear. You're all expelled from family protection. Your assets are forfeit. Your names are stripped, and your fates are left to my discretion. Nicholas went pale. Damien, please, please. Damien's voice cracked like a whip. Did you show mercy when you poisoned Elena's mother? When you made her watch her mother nearly die? When you humiliated her in front of everyone at that gala? We'll face legal consequences, Vivian said desperately. The police, the courts? Oh, you'll face those too. Damien pulled up one final screen, copies of all the evidence being delivered simultaneously to the FBI, the state police, the district attorney. I've already sent everything to law enforcement. By morning, arrest warrants will be issued for everyone in this room except my wife and myself. Vincent bolted for the door. Security caught him before he made it 3 steps. Let me go, he struggled. I have connections. I'll disappear. You'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison, Damien said calmly. All of you will. Attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, poisoning. The evidence is ironclad. Thomas stood slowly, his expression shifting from fury to something almost like respect. You've become ruthless, nephew. I taught you well. You taught me nothing except what happens to those who betray family. Damien's voice was final. Guards, escort them out, separately. Hold them until the police arrive. Security moved in, taking each conspirator into custody. Nicholas went quietly, already calculating plea bargains. The Russos raged, threatening lawyers and political connections. Vincent tried to bribe his way out even as he was dragged away. Victoria paused at the door, looking back at her son. For just a moment, something that might have been regret flickered in her eyes. I could have loved you, she said quietly, if you'd been different, if you hadn't been so much like him. And I could have forgiven you, Damien replied, if you'd been any kind of mother at all. She left without another word. Thomas was last. He looked at Elena, his expression calculating even in defeat. Enjoy your victory, girl. But remember, you married into a world where family destroys family, where love is weakness and trust is death. How long before he turns on you too? Elena met his gaze without flinching. He won't, because unlike you, we actually understand what family means, what loyalty means. You could have had everything if you'd just been patient, if you'd valued people over power. Instead, you have nothing. Thomas's laugh was bitter as security led him away. We'll see. Then Elena and Damien were alone in the ballroom, surrounded by the evidence of their victory and the ghosts of betrayal. Damien pulled Elena into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. It's over, he murmured against her hair. It's finally over. Elena clung to him, letting the reality sink in. They'd won. Against impossible odds, against his own family, they'd won. What happens now? She asked. Now? Damien pulled back to look at her. Now we rebuild. The council will need new members. The family businesses will need reorganization. There will be fallout, questions, probably investigations into things we'd rather keep quiet. That's not what I meant. Elena cupped his face. I mean us. What happens to us? Understanding dawned in Damien's eyes. We get to find out who we are without threats hanging over us. We get to build a real marriage, not one forged in crisis and conspiracy. I'd like that. So would I. Damien's kiss was gentle, reverent. You saved me, Elena. In every way a person can save another. You gave me something to fight for beyond power and revenge. You gave me hope. We saved each other, Elena corrected. You gave me strength I didn't know I had. You made me believe I was worth fighting for. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the wreckage of the conspiracy, knowing the hardest parts were behind them. The next days were chaos. Arrests made headlines across the country. Prominent businessman Thomas Moretti, socialite Victoria Moretti, the Russo family, all charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud. Vincent turned state's evidence immediately, confirming every detail of the plot in exchange for a reduced sentence. Lena Ward, faced with evidence of her participation, broke down completely. She'd been promised money and a chance at revenge, manipulated by people who saw her as a disposable tool. Her fake pregnancy was exposed in humiliating detail. She faced charges of fraud and conspiracy, her reputation destroyed. Caroline tried to claim ignorance, but recordings proved she'd been paid $50,000 to make her false accusations. She was arrested for defamation and fraud, her perfect life crumbling around her. Richard Hart, Elena's father, tried to distance himself from the whole affair, but his role in forcing Elena into the marriage made him complicit enough to destroy his business reputation. Within a week, he was bankrupt and under investigation. And through it all, Elena's mother recovered. The poisoning had done damage, but the doctors were optimistic. With proper care and medication, this time carefully monitored, she would heal. Damien moved her into the mansion's guest wing, ensuring she had around-the-clock care and protection. You didn't have to do this, she told him one afternoon as Elena sat beside her bed. Yes, I did. Damien's voice was firm. You're family now, and I protect family. Tears shimmered in her eyes. You're a good man, Damien Moretti. Despite what people say, despite what you've had to become to survive, you're good. After he left, Elena's mother took her hand. That's the one, baby. That's the man you fight for, you build with, you trust completely. Don't ever let him go. I won't, Mom. I promise. The council vote that had threatened to remove Damien never happened. With Thomas, Nicholas, and their supporters facing criminal charges, the remaining council members unanimously confirmed Damien's leadership. More than that, they expanded his authority, recognizing that his ruthless exposure of the conspiracy had probably saved the family from tearing itself apart. Marcus Castellane approached Damien at a business meeting a week later. You handled that with precision, he said quietly. Most men would have just killed the traitors and called it justice. You exposed them legally, systematically. You made them face consequences in the real world, not just ours. Elena's influence, Damien admitted. She believes in justice, not just revenge. Smart woman, Marcus smiled. You chose well, Damien, better than anyone expected. The legal proceedings would take months, possibly years, but the outcome was never in doubt. The evidence was overwhelming. Thomas was looking at life in prison. So was Victoria. The Russos faced decades behind bars. Vincent would serve reduced time, but he'd never operate in Greyhaven again. As for Elena and Damien, they finally had something they'd never really had before. Time. Time to learn each other without crisis forcing their hands. Time to build the marriage that had started as a transaction and become something infinitely more precious. One evening, 2 months after the family meeting, Damien found Elena in the library. She was curled up with a book, comfortable and relaxed in a way she'd never been before. "I have something for you," he said. Elena looked up, curious. "What?" He handed her a folder. Inside were legal documents, property deeds, trust funds, bank accounts. "What is this?" "Your mother's house, paid in full, a trust fund that will cover all her medical expenses for life, and a personal account in your name with enough money that you never have to depend on me financially." Damien sat beside her. "I'm giving you the freedom to leave if you want to. No strings, no obligations. You can walk away from this marriage with everything you need to build a life on your own terms." Elena stared at the documents, her throat tight. "You're giving me an out. I'm giving you a choice, a real one this time." Damien's hand cupped her cheek. "I want you to stay because you want to, not because you're trapped or grateful or scared. I want you to choose me freely." Tears blurred Elena's vision. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was giving her everything she'd need to leave him, because he loved her enough to set her free. "You're an idiot," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Damien blinked. "Excuse me? If you think I'm leaving, you're an idiot." Elena set the folder aside and moved into his lap, straddling him, her hands framing his face. "I didn't stay because I was trapped. I stayed because I chose you. I choose you. Every day, Damien, every single day." His arms came around her, holding her close. "Are you sure? This life isn't easy. There will always be danger, always be people trying to use you to get to me. I know, and I'll face it. With you." Elena kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. "I love you, Damien Moretti, not because you saved me, not because you're powerful or rich or any of those things. I love you because you see me, the real me, and you value that person." "I more than value her." Damien's voice was rough with emotion. "I adore her. I need her. I can't imagine my life without her." "And stop trying to give me reasons to leave." Elena smiled through her tears. "I'm exactly where I want to be. With a reformed crime boss who has more enemies than friends. With my husband, who happens to be the strongest, most loyal, most protective man I've ever known." Elena rested her forehead against his. "We're building something real, Damien. Something that started in chaos but became something beautiful. I'm not walking away from that." His kiss was everything, gentle and fierce, claiming and cherishing, a promise of forever wrapped in a single moment. When they finally pulled apart, Damien smiled. "Mrs. Chen is going to be insufferable when she finds out we're officially, genuinely in love." Elena laughed. "She already knows. Everyone knows." "True." Damien stood, lifting Elena with him. "Come on, I have one more surprise." He led her through the mansion to a door she'd never seen opened. Inside was a room that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, comfortable furniture, shelves waiting to be filled. "Your space," Damien said. "Whatever you want to do with it. Art studio, library, office, somewhere that's completely yours." Elena turned to him, overwhelmed. "You keep giving me things. Because you deserve everything." Damien pulled her close. "You gave up your freedom, your safety, your normal life to be with me. The least I can do is give you a place that's yours alone." "I don't want to be alone." Elena's hand slid up his chest. "I want to be with you." Heat flared in Damien's eyes. "Elena, remember what you said? That I'd come to you when I was ready? When I touched you first without hesitation?" Elena stood on her toes, her lips brushing his. "I'm ready, Damien. I'm choosing you, completely." His control, always so carefully maintained, finally shattered. He kissed her with all the desire they'd been holding back for months, lifting her into his arms and carrying her to their bedroom. Their actual bedroom this time. Not separate spaces, not careful distance. Together. The next morning, Elena woke wrapped in Damien's arms, sunlight streaming through the windows. He was already awake, watching her with an expression of such tenderness it made her heart ache. "Good morning, wife," he murmured. "Good morning, husband." Elena stretched, feeling deliciously sore and completely content. No regrets? Only that I waited so long. Damien kissed her forehead. I love you, Elena Moretti. I love you too. They lay there for a while, just existing together in the peaceful morning. Then Damien's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. Your mother is asking when we're coming for breakfast. Elena laughed. She's gotten very comfortable ordering us around. Good, she should. Damien stood, pulling Elena up with him. She's family, and family gets to be comfortable. As they prepared for the day, Elena caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was transformed, not by expensive clothes or makeup, but by confidence, by love, by the knowledge that she was valued, protected, cherished. She'd entered Damien's world as nobody, a substitute bride, a transaction, but she'd become the one person who could stand beside the Mafia king as his equal, his partner, his queen. 6 months later, Elena stood in the foundation office she'd opened, reviewing applications for the Women's Shelter Program. Using Moretti resources and Damien's connections, she'd created a network of safe houses for women escaping dangerous situations. Women like she might have become if circumstances had been different. Her mother managed the day-to-day operations, healthy now and thriving with purpose. Maya worked as their lead counselor, finally able to use her psychology degree for something meaningful. Even Caroline had reached out eventually, broken by legal troubles and public humiliation. Elena had been tempted to refuse her, but Damien had reminded her that forgiveness was a choice, and sometimes the strongest thing you could do was offer mercy. Caroline now volunteered at one of the shelters, her polished exterior stripped away to reveal something more genuine underneath. They'd never be close, but they were learning to be civil. As for the conspirators, Thomas and Victoria were both serving life sentences. The Russos had accepted plea deals that would keep them imprisoned for decades. Vincent had disappeared into witness protection, his power and influence gone forever. Greyhaven had new power dynamics now. The Moretti family, under Damien's leadership, was transitioning legitimate businesses away from the shadowy operations of the past. It would take years, maybe generations. But Damien was committed to building something his future children could be proud of. Children. Elena touched her stomach, where a secret still waited to be shared. The pregnancy test that morning had been positive. She and Damien were going to be parents. The office door opened and Damien entered, as if summoned by her thoughts. He always seemed to know when she needed him. Everything all right? He asked, crossing to kiss her. Perfect. Elena smiled up at him. I have something to tell you. Something in her tone made him pause, his dark eyes searching hers. What is it? We're going to need to add a nursery to the mansion renovations. For a moment, Damien just stared. Then understanding bloomed across his face, followed by joy so pure it transformed him. You're pregnant? His voice was hushed, reverent. I'm pregnant. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. We're having a baby. We're having a baby, Elena confirmed, tears streaming down her face. Damien's own eyes were wet as he pulled back to look at her. This child will know love, protection, security, everything we didn't have. Everything we built together, Elena agreed. They stood there in the office of the foundation they'd created, in the city they'd claimed, surrounded by the life they'd fought for and won. The forced marriage had become a love story. The transaction had become a partnership. The survival pact had become a family. Elena Hart had walked into Damien Moretti's world expecting to be destroyed. Instead, she'd been reborn, transformed, elevated to a position of power and purpose she'd never imagined. She wasn't the invisible daughter anymore. She wasn't the substitute bride. She wasn't nobody. She was Elena Moretti, wife to the Mafia king, founder of a foundation that saved lives, soon to be mother to a child who would inherit an empire built on loyalty, love, and the strength to fight for what mattered. The girl forced into marriage hadn't escaped the Mafia boss. She'd become the only woman powerful enough to rule beside him. And together, they'd built something that could never be destroyed, a love forged in fire, tested by betrayal, and proven unbreakable. Their story had started with fear and coercion, but it ended with choice, with trust, with a love that conquered everything thrown against it. And in the dangerous world of Greyhaven's underworld, that was the greatest victory of all.